So we're going to be looking today at doing our LBQ, and I'll share that code with you separately, either on the text on Class Dojo or if you were on our Zoom meeting this morning. We're going to be looking at times tables as we always do. Negative numbers, so thinking about counting back past zero. So remember, the bigger a number is with a negative sign, the more negative it is, the lower it is. Always draw yourself a little number line to help you when you're dealing with negative numbers. So think 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, minus 1, minus 2, minus 3, minus 4, and so on. That will help you doing any calculations. And you're going to look at place value in a 4-digit number, thinking about what those different numbers represent. We have started to look at that in terms of decimals over the last week or so. We're going to look at our English session, where we're going to be thinking about a setting description. Your maths, obviously, is an additional video, as it has been the last few days. So spelling, thinking about those suffixes again. Guided reading, a bit more murder at the manor. And we're going to finish off with some PSHCE. Okay, so the English task today. I want you to look at the front cover of our book again, which is our How to Live Forever. This is actually scanned in on your Seesaw task, and it is in your pack as well. I want you to think about all the things that you can see on that front cover. So it might be, I can see books, I can see mice climbing a stairway, I can see a tree, I can see a clock with a pendulum swinging. So list as many things as you can. You're then going to take those ideas and develop them into descriptive phrases. And this on Seesaw is taken through a step at a time. So it might be that you look specifically at the flamingos, which is on that little shelf there. And so you've taken that idea, so I can see flamingos, and you're going to develop it into a descriptive phrase. So it might be flamingos with next the colour of roses. Okay. It might be a tree sprouting from an oak brown shelf. Think about how you can develop them. Okay, you can either do that on Seesaw or you can do it on the task sheet that's in your pack. Think about how descriptive you can make it. Can you think of some really descriptive words? You can use your iPads or your tablets to try and find synonyms to really up-level that work. Can you use some Alan Peake sentences as well? So your maths, you're going to work from the additional clip, and that is decimals, rounding decimals today. So thinking about your rounding skills that you were doing on LBQ earlier in the week, but you're going to apply that to decimals. And the full lesson is on the clip to help you there. And then we're going to start thinking about spelling. So let's just have a look at these words first of all. Okay, so none of them that you had on your task yesterday doubled when you added ENCE. But the pronunciation will change. So I'm going to read these words out to you, and I want to see if you can hear the difference in the words. Referring, reference, preferring, preference, transferring, transference, differing, difference, inferring, inference, conferring, conference. So obviously, the ENC words change the pronunciation, but in terms of you referring, think about what you can hear there. Referring, referring, we double the R. Preferring, we double the R, preferring. Transferring, transferring, we double the R. Differing, do we double the R? No, we don't. It sounds different. Differing. You don't stress that fur in there. Inferring. You say inferring, don't you? Don't say inferring. You say inferring. So you double the R. Conferring. You stress the fur, so you double the R. So have a look whether or not you got those right from yesterday. Now it is quite tricky. So your spelling test today is to fill in that grid that you would normally do for homework. And it's in there to help you, okay? So it's in there to help you practice, but you've also got your spelling shed task, because obviously that is quite a tricky pattern to learn, to listen to the word and think whether or not you're stressing it. So some of that's going to be about that practice. Remember, we talked about getting it from our front of our brains to the back of our brains, about doing that constant practice. Okay, guided reading. So first of all, let's have a look at our task from yesterday. So did you get the matching correctly? So we've got A, which was ruffled, matched to 9, which was rearranged. You think about ruffling someone's hair, you'd rearrange it, wouldn't you? So B, which is crows, matches with 6, which is a big black bird. C is roosting, which matches with settle for a rest or a sleep, obviously used for birds. D, which is cawing, matches with a noise. E is a hag, which is a witch-like old lady. F is murderous, which is dangerously violent or unpleasant, which was number 3. G, which is a trench coat, which is a military style coat, which was 8. H, which is slumped, which is sit or lean or fall heavily, which was 7. I, a manor, which is a large country house, which was 10. And the final one, J, was a butler, which is number 5, a chief servant of a house. Okay, so if you're all right, just checking that through. So if we now just have a quick look at the text. Okay, murder at the manor. The moon looked down as a silver fox thieved its way across the snow-covered grounds of Hawthorn Manor and hid in the shadows of Timperley Wood. A slight wind ruffled the feathers of the crows that were now roosting high in the trees. Only the sharp scream of a woman broke the silence, the crows cawing like an old hag as they flew in the sky like a murderous storm cloud. Soon afterwards, a phone call was made to the village police station. Inspector Doyle to see you, ma'am. Thank you, Sasha. Do show him in. Oh, and could you bring me a blanket, please? It's awfully cold in here. Inspector Doyle took off his gloves, placed one in each pocket of his trench coat and walked briskly into the study. There, slumped over his writing desk, was the body of Charles Toftsbury, lord of the manor and husband of Lady Josephine Toftsbury, who sat in a large leather chair on the other side of the room. Her emerald green ball gown glistened in the sunlight. Oh, Inspector, it's simply too dreadful to speak of. He was fine an hour ago. I was speaking to him myself. Then, when he didn't come to join me and greet our guests, I came in here to look for him. Josephine Toftsbury buried her head in her hands. Has anyone touched the body, your ladyship? She shook her head. No, they couldn't have. The door was locked from the inside and only my husband and I have a key. Oh, and Sasha, of course, but that goes without saying. And who would this Sasha be, your ladyship? That would be me, Inspector. I'm the head butler here at Hawthorn Manor. As he spoke, he wrapped a blanket around Lady Toftsbury's shoulders and walked over to the window. He was just about to close it when, if you don't mind, sir, said the inspector politely, I'd rather nothing in the room was touched, including the window. This is, after all, a crime scene. Okay, so that's your text that you read yesterday. So you've reread it through. So what you're going to do today is have a look at your orientation. Have a go at answering those questions and we'll run through those tomorrow. Okay, so let's now have a look at your PSHCE. So we started yesterday thinking about aiming high and some of those statements and the different types of learners that you might be. And I saw some of your quizzes posted on Seesaw yesterday. If you didn't have a chance to do that yesterday, have a look through. It's quite an interesting exercise. But we're going to think today about successful learners overcoming challenges and how learning strategies help us. Okay. So there's another task for you to do on Seesaw today. You'll go on and you'll notice some statements that can be classified as helpful or unhelpful. So we're often told that having a positive outlook and healthy attitude will help us to succeed. I want to think about whether or not this can be true. So what I want you to do is have a look at those statements. And I want you to think, right, so are they helpful or unhelpful thoughts in a person achieving their goals? So have a go at sorting those out. I think there's 2 different pages for you to look at, and I want you to think about why they might be helpful and why they might be unhelpful. Okay. So thinking about barriers to success. So everyone has a chance to succeed at something. However, there's often obstacles to success which can make that succeeding even more challenging. Some of those things are out of our control and can be really difficult to overcome, but some of those things are within our control. So let's have a look at some of these. Decide, have a think to yourself as I read them, Are there things that we can control or things that are out of your control, something that you can't control or do anything about? Expecting to be perfect at something first time. Not having anyone to teach you a particular subject or skill. Giving up too soon. Being frightened of making a mistake. Failing a test. Being jealous of others. Lessons in a particular skill are just too expensive. There's no time or space to practice a skill. Not asking others for advice or feedback. Sticking with things that are easy. Believing talents are natural and need no effort. Or not being old enough to achieve something yet. Or not knowing how to do something. Overcoming challenge can be really hard, but I'm sure you'll agree, although some of those things can seem like a barrier, like not having anyone to teach a particular subject or skill, or lessons are too expensive, or time or space to practice, can be quite a challenge. And not all people are born with the same opportunities or chances, and some people have to work even harder just to be in the same position as someone else who's already in that position. And unfortunately, power and privilege are still parts of our society. So it might be that piano lessons are too expensive, but it might be you can find a way to overcome that challenge. You might have a friend who can teach you. Okay. So there's some really famous quotes that make you think about how you can overcome a challenge and make you believe that you can be the best you can be. So everyone, no matter how rich, how famous, or how important, has the challenges to overcome. Those who have succeeded at what they do have got there because of their effort, perseverance, and helpful attitudes. So what we're going to do is look at some quotes by some famous people. See if you recognise any of them. Failure is simply the opportunity to begin again, this time more intelligently. If you think you can do a thing or think you can't do a thing, you're right. And those things were said by Henry Ford, who is an American businessman who introduced affordable motor cars to the public, and you'll probably recognise Ford cars as I've said that now. Many of life's failures are people who did not realise how close they were to success when they gave up. I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that don't actually work. And that's Thomas Edison. He was the man who invented the light bulb. How very little can be done under the spirit of fear. I attribute my success to this. I never gave or took any excuse. Florence Nightingale. She's the founder of modern nursing. Do not judge me by my successes. Judge me by how many times I fell down and got back up again. And that's Nelson Mandela, who's the first Black president of South Africa. We may encounter many defeats, but we must not be defeated. And that's Maya Angelou, an American poet and author. A person who never made a mistake, never tried anything new. And that was Albert Einstein, possibly one of the most famous scientists ever. Now, I think many of these quotes really motivate and inspire, make you really think that actually it's good to make mistakes. Mistakes are not something we feel comfortable with, and we talk about this an awful lot in class. So that's those uncomfortable feelings are where the real learning happens. So what I want you to do is have a think about whether or not you can create some motivational quotes of your own. Can you motivate people who are struggling? What could you say to them to make them keep going? Have a look back at some of these quotes. Could you come up with your own? I'd love to see some of those on Seesaw. So have a think back about how successful learners overcome challenges and how helpful strategies can help us, how we can think about some of those phrases. Could you come up with your own motto that you're going to say to yourself when you find things hard? Because you will find things hard. Okay, I'll speak to you all soon. Keep working hard.